It's the Cassius Morris Show, and we're joined via phone with a very special guest. He is the frontman and lead singer of fan favorite rock and roll band Texas Hippie Coalition, and they just dropped their latest record, High in the Saddle. We're joined by Big Dad Ritch. Big Dad, how are you?
I'm all good, baby. All good.
Beautiful. It's great to have you on the phone today. Where are you calling from?
I'm actually in Richmond, Virginia, on my day off, just getting a little R&R.
Okay, very cool. Are you guys on tour right now?
Yeah, we've been out running. We're in our 8th week right now.
Beautiful. So what's this tour experience been like, say, compared to the last couple of experiences? Does it all sort of blend together, or are there major distinctions?
You know, it's miles on tires, man. Every tour one seems to run right into another. But I guess the one thing I noticed different is we usually have all the fans singing the old songs, and the new songs that we've been playing off the album. They're a little new to them, but since the album dropped last week, we're noticing a lot of fans singing all the new songs, and it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Right. So they're actually not only recognizing the old songs, but they're also recognizing and picking up on the new songs right away. And it's funny because that's something that I noticed myself when listening to the record. There's a lot of what I'll call anthemic moments on this record. There's a lot of moments that I think would inspire the audience to sing along and really get involved. Talk to me about the crowd participation at you guys' shows. Is that a really big point that you guys try to focus on in terms of your live performances?
Oh, man, that's what we're all about. That's why we call ourselves Texas Hippie Coalition. We come from Texas. We're the hippies, and our following is the coalition. So, we always like to have everybody come out to have a good time. That's what we're all going to festivals and shows for, is to party and get drunk and maybe chase some tail and maybe have some tail chase us.
One of the things that you guys sort of highlight in your music is living it up, just enjoying your life and having a good time. And I think that's something that sort of gets lost in our heavy-handed world nowadays. Talk to me about the inspiration for some of your music. Is a lot of it just the band hanging out in sort of a party setting and you guys just jamming, or do you guys sit down and write in a more closed environment? How does it really work for you guys?
Man, I have the luxury of being in a band with not only two great guitar players, but also two very sound songwriters. And my bass player is coming along as a great songwriter as well. So I'm surrounded by songwriters and great musicians, which a lot of bands out there can have an understanding that that's not always the case. You could have a great musician that's not a good writer, or a great writer who might not be one of the best musicians. But I'm blessed to have both. And I think that whenever we write, like somebody will have an idea and then we'll all build off of it and take it to the next level. So sometimes it could be a guitar player writes a song and brings it to the table. Sometimes it could be me having some lyrics and bringing it to the table, and then it grows. And sometimes we like to just all get in a room together and see if we can't knock a few out. And there's some songs on this album, that were, written in the same day. So it's always cool that you can just come up, with about, 24, 30 good songs and pick the best ones to throw on your album.
Yeah, 100%. And that sounds like a really cool natural writing process in the way that it's sort of just the pieces fall together where they may because you're surrounded by a talented team. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, we're definitely looking for that even flow. Anything that feels forced, we're not going to be able to make it come across right, and our fans aren't going to accept it. We're trying to be real music for real people. So anything forced, I think, would just be unacceptable. So we're all about that even flow. If it feels good, it'll do good.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good rule of thumb. And speaking of authentic music, it's you guys' second pairing with producer Bob Marley, of course, known for Rob Zombie fame and many other things. What's your relationship like when you're working with a producer, especially for the second time back in the studio? How heavily is a producer involved in a Texas Hippie Coalition album?
Back in the day, I think he was, on Peacemaker, he was a lot more involved with the songwriting. He had his hands in almost every one of them. On this album, he really only has his hands in a couple of the songs. So, the band has grown a tremendous amount, and for us to come in the studio with as many songs as we had, and then some of the songs that he had, we all jumped in on them and turned them into something THC. So, he's really good at doing what he does, which is producing the album and letting us know that the onion can always be bigger. There can always be another layer. So, he just helps us make the album because we have to go out and do it live, and you have to transpose that stuff from the vinyl, from the record to the live audience to take it to the public. So, it's as far as I'm concerned, like working with him is as easy as eating cake or pie. He's
Right.
a great dude. He's very willing to listen to you. And one thing he taught me is if there's something worth fighting for, and the other person is fighting for it, sometimes you have to just put down your weapons and listen and figure out. If it wasn't worth fighting for, they wouldn't be pushing for it or fighting for it. So.
Yeah.
There's a song on Peacemaker that wasn't going to make the album, and he came back and fought for it. And I thought, if he's going to fight for it, he taught me a lesson. I think I would like to let him go ahead and have it on the album, and I'm glad we put it on there. And then with this album, I know he fought for a lot of songs, and we fought him back, to get to these 10. So I think that he was very pleased. We're all very pleased. I know he doesn't like to work with people more than one time or a second time, and I know he's done that with very few people like John 5 and Rob Zombie, and now
Really?
he's worked with me 2 or 3 times, and he's expressed that he would look forward to working with me in the future. So I feel great that I've built not only a kinship, but a very close friendship. We care about each other genuinely, and if something important or something awful happens in our life, we're not afraid to share it with one another, even after putting the album together.
Right. I love that. Well, that's fantastic. That's actually something I didn't know about him as a producer, and that's good that you guys have that good flowing working relationship. Speaking of something unfortunate potentially happening, you guys had a really close call back in 2008 at Rocklahoma when a storm took down 2 stages at the festival. I'm just curious about your perspective on that. I know that you guys actually escaped without any of your gear being harmed. Is that correct?
Yeah, we actually, a lot of bands on that bill that weekend, they were monster bands, and they were flown in, bussed in, and they didn't bring gear with them. They were using backline. But Texas Hippie Coalition, we had a couple backyard parties planned for that show, and we had brought all of our equipment with us. We had played on the second stage on Friday night, and we were playing on the third stage on Sunday night. And when both the stages got tore down, they put everybody in one area, but they didn't have a back line. So we gave them all of our equipment to use as a back line. I mean, every band that played that night played on our stuff. And that was the night that it was Texas Hippie Coalition shot heard around the world. Because I'm telling you, when we were on stage, everybody at that festival was right there with us. I can't remember who was on the main stage. They came on about 10, 15 minutes before our set was over, but they played to very few people. And I don't know who it was, but I know that we kept everyone at that festival, which was a monster number, right there with us. And, man, it was a great night for me personally, a great night for the band. And that's when people around the world started hearing our name, and not just for the first time. It was something that was being repeated, and they could say, "Oh yeah, I've heard of them. I've heard of those guys."
Yeah, 100%. Because you guys really showed up and made your mark, and not only that, you guys helped out your fellow musicians. So I think that something like that in a time of where something could have potentially been a tragedy or was a tragedy, I think that that's sort of a shining light in a way. So I really like that story.
Yeah, man, I'm a lover of music, and there was a bill about a year or two ago, and it was way far away from where we were. We would have to travel about a day to get there, and then when we were done, we'd have to travel about a day to get to our next show. And I had turned it down, and the guy was like, "Man, I got Blackstone Cherry going on. If I could just have you guys going on right before them, it would be perfect." And like, that's like one of my, top 20 favorite bands. So I was like, "Gosh, dang it, man, I guess I'll go ahead and take the show." And even though the pay is not really what I want it to be, and it's a lot of travel, I still get to see Blackstone Cherry for free.
Nice. Yeah, exactly. That's definitely a plus side. I know that we're running short on time here, but closing up, I'm just curious. I got the chance to see a little tiny bit of Texas at a period of time. I am from Canada, and a lot of my listenership is as well. So I'm just curious, what's something that you can tell the world about Texas that they might not expect?
Well, first of all, it's humongous. It's very big, and if you traveled all the way across half the United States, like if you traveled from Georgia through Florida, through Alabama, through Missouri, Mississippi, or Louisiana, whichever route you took, that's about as far as it is from one side of Texas to the other.
Right.
You can cross about 5 or 6 states, so it's very big. And you could be in one part of Texas and like Austin and Houston and think it's one way, and then you could be in Fort Worth and Dallas and think it's another way. You know what I mean? But most people do wear cowboy hats. There are a lot of cowboys, but there's a lot of different kinds of people in Texas. So it's kind of a big melting pot. But I think one thing you'll discover when you come to Texas that most of the ladies are ladies and most of the men are gentlemen. And it's a rarity to find people around the United States that meet you and greet you with respect, and they don't make you earn it. It's their disrespect that you can earn quickly if you don't act proper.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So it's really just based on your actions up front.
Exactly. We're always going to greet you with a smile and a howdy and a handshake, and lady, we might tip her cowboy hat. You know what I mean? But it's just if you get to acting ignorant, we know how to treat people that act ignorant.
That's right. You got a remedy for that too. Well, I love that. Well, Big Dad Ritch, thank you so much for the insight today. We encourage everybody to go check out the new album, Texas Hippie Coalition, High in the Saddle, and best of luck on the rest of your tour and safe travels as well.
Awesome, my brother. Thank you, Cassius.